He joins me now from Los Angeles. To me, it seems like the Fed is still weighing its options. We're going to lean on your experience, though, with U.S. banking, the IMF, and the New York Fed. And I ask you simply, what happens now? When you look at that inflation data, is there really only one path forward for the Fed in the near term?
It is of utmost importance that the Fed convinces everybody they're going to bring inflation back to its target level. Expectations are absolutely critical to the Fed story, and as long as the Fed believes that they have to put more pressure on the economy in order to contain inflation, they're going to do that. Because once inflation starts to run away in terms of people's expectations, and people don't believe the Fed is able to control inflation, we're going to return to the horrible wage price spirals that we had in the 70s. And that corrosive behavior is something the Fed is going to do everything possible to avoid.
So do you think 100 basis points then is closer to reality right now rather than 75?
The latest numbers are showing that inflation is still rising, and that's the fear that the Fed has just got to get rid of. And so, yes, 100 basis points is definitely on the table because the Fed was started off behind the eight ball, as it were. They started late, and now it's a game of catch-up. And as I said, the absolute important target for the Fed would be people and business expectations. The people and businesses have to be convinced that the Fed will bring inflation down in a reasonable amount of time.
Okay, and they're going to have to create some confidence that that will be done. I have to ask you, oil is down significantly, but not all energy prices are down. The jobs report gave no comfort to anyone earlier in terms of inflation having peaked, and yet you do hear some people think that it has. I mean, what do you think when you dove deeper into the data the other day on the CPI?
When the Fed looks deeper into the data, and as I have, given my experience at the Fed as well as the IMF, it's absolutely clear that goods prices are starting to come down, commodity prices are starting to come down, but the worst of all worlds, service prices, rents, all of the pieces of inflation that are very, very sticky, and once they start to rise, it's very hard to get them to turn around. Those are the pieces that the Fed is trying to get a handle on and to try to cool off. Cooling off the very hot real estate market will be the first step in that policy.
Yeah, and that is stubborn and sticky, as you say, as are wages, which was the two things that caught my attention in that data. We are in uncharted territory when it comes to geopolitical risk, with new shocks to the global system, it seems, every day. I mean, you just have to look at what we talk about here on the show, everything from Sri Lanka and now to Italy. How many more shocks do you think the global economy can take? And as you say, given your expertise with the IMF just this week, right, downgrading global growth yet again. I mean, how worried are you? Because this does seem to be unprecedented shocks, or at least the kind of shocks we haven't seen since the 70s.
What's absolutely clear is that this inflation issue is a global issue, and it's starting to get all governments concerned. And the political unrest in Sri Lanka, as well as the tensions coming about in Italy, are a good example of what the Fed is faced with. Because if that kind of division starts to arise here in the U.S., that loss of confidence will not only mean continued weak earnings for banks, but no one ever is going to want to borrow and expand businesses. And the only prayer that we have for controlling inflation is that people think of the future, invest in the future, invest in productivity enhancing investments so that we could actually make people more productive, give them higher wages, and bring down inflation. But that requires investment and that requires confidence. We don't have that now.
And do you think we will, just try and end on a positive note here, do you think getting any kind of breathing room with that price of oil is going to help? Look, it's down significantly now. President Biden will speak to Saudi and other leaders about pumping more oil. Do you think that will help restore confidence that the inflation rate can go down?
Well, Paul, the real thing to look at would be the price of gasoline. If the price of crude oil comes down, that's not going to help the consumer's pocketbook. When we go fill up our tanks, it's the price of gasoline that counts, and having refineries be able to produce more gasoline is absolutely the key to that. And getting President Biden to ease up on the rules for refineries is the first step in that kind of a policy.
So interesting in terms of when it comes down to that, because as you said, a lot of it has to do not just on the price of oil, but refining that oil. Can't thank you enough for being here for us. Thanks so much.